I'm coming, Kim. I was sitting here talking to Chris and realized I didn't have a water, so I had to sprint to the cooler to get a water. Good morning, y'all. Good morning. How are y'all? Um, I feel distracted. What am I doing? What day is it? Today I am headed to the Hansville Library because I'm doing an incubation project with those kids. So I have to be at the library at about, well, at 10. And then I got to go do animals. And, oh, I didn't turn the curling iron on. And I think that's all I have to do today. But my patient that lives with me, for some reason, I told Chris this, but in the 9 years he's lived with me, Larry has never gotten up at 6 a.m. to go do word searches. But this morning, my patient is up and he's doing word searches at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, oh gosh. But the bath lady's coming while I'm gone. So she'll be here to make sure he's okay. So he'll have someone with him. But it's very odd that he's up at 6 a.m. You know, I sit here and I think, I hope to God that I do not have a life where I sit in a bedroom all day long and do word searches. It seems like such a depressing life. Like just to sit in the room and do word searches all day long, like nonstop. Like anytime I ever look at the camera or walk into his bedroom, he's sitting there doing his word searches. And I'm like, it seems so sad to me. And so yesterday, you know, Susan was here. Well, YouTube doesn't know this. Susan, which is one of the backup dancers, painted a chicken on my door. Y'all are going to see that video on Thursday. And I went to get Larry because I thought he might enjoy sitting outside watching her paint the chicken. So I go inside and he's sound asleep. So, like, you know, it's just hard. It's just hard. But he's up at 6 a.m., which concerns me because he don't ever do that. But when I walked into his room this morning to give him his medicine, he was really gasping for breath, but he didn't have his oxygen on. And when I walked in there to put his medicine in his little cup, he woke up and looked at me. I said, "You're gasping for breath. You need to put your oxygen on, huh?" I said, "Put your oxygen on. You're gasping for breath." And he did. So it may be a rough day with him today. I don't know. I went and got Jack yesterday from the vet, and he was so excited to see me. It made me feel good. And yesterday afternoon, I got this text message. And you know, I told you in my video on Tuesday that I really thought God was going to use Jack. I don't know how, but every single animal that is disabled on my farm, God has used that animal to teach kids and people, adults, about not discriminating against people with disabilities. And like the first thing that I think about with a kid is, ew, you know, like when they see the duck has one leg, or they see that, oh, he don't have an eye. You know, that's what kids do. That's how they discriminate, but they don't do it on purpose. And with an adult, an adult has more of a consideration to not go, ooh, what, ooh, one leg. Like, adults not going to do that. But how does an adult discriminate? I feel like an adult would discriminate, like, by not understanding a disability, meaning, like, it might gross them out, let's just say, to sit and eat lunch with someone that has a disability. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. How would an adult discriminate against someone with a disability? Okay, this is the first thing that comes to my mind is I'm thinking, this is what comes to mind. And this is not really a disability, but it kind of is. Like, someone that's on drugs. Majority of adults, they call them a meth head, or they call them a loser, or they call them, I'm trying to think words that adults call drug addicts. They did it to themselves. Like, I ain't having nothing to do with them. Like, kind of like that. And to me, not discriminating against someone that's on drugs is understanding the illness that they have. So, how do you understand, like, if someone that you know is on drugs and you're sitting here and you're like, I don't understand. They're making these decisions themselves. I don't understand why they're choosing this life of being homeless and not having teeth and having a felony and living in jail. Like, why would someone choose this life? And, like, those are not, to me, discriminating, because you're expressing a thought. Discriminating would be, that daggum meth head. Like talking like that would be discriminating against someone that's on drugs. I don't know if you discriminate against someone on drugs. To me, when you say that meth head, or he's an idiot, like things like that, that is discriminatory to me. So, how do you not discriminate against someone that's on drugs when you're an adult? I feel like it's learning their illness. Like, if you are someone with a loved one on drugs, you need Al Anon. I went through 2 years of Al Anon to understand people that have addiction problems with drugs. And the reason is because drug addiction was right here in my face, and I was an enabler, and I was trying to fix this problem, and I couldn't, and I was going insane. So once I understood the thought process of what someone goes through that's in addiction, the more I was able to have a little bit of compassion against someone that is on drugs, and I didn't no longer say freaking meth head. But sometimes I catch myself calling them a meth head. Why do I do that? Am I who I say I am? Which is the title of this live. Am I who I say I am? Well, who do I say I am? Who do I say I am? Well, Let's start from scratch. Okay? Let's start from scratch. The first thing I say at 7 o'clock in the morning is I get on here live completely naked in the face, meaning I have no makeup on. My hair is a train wreck. My thoughts are not clear. And I tell you guys, I'm on the struggle bus. So, the first thing I say I am is either a train wreck or I'm on the struggle bus. So am I who I say I am? Well, at 7 a.m. I am. 7 a.m. I wake up. I wake up. Most mornings it starts the night before. And the night before I go live, I start going, I don't know. I can't go live in the morning. What am I going to do? I can't do it. And the reason I sit here and say I can't do it is because I create a topic and all this confusion comes in play between the time I post what I'm talking about and the moment I hit live on my computer. It's like other problems come into play. And so then when I come live, there's distraction in my head because there's things that I can talk about and there's things that I can't talk about. So I feel distracted because I'm a creator that is very honest about what's going on in my life. And sometimes because I'm so honest, I make other people that know me mad. You're talking about me. And I don't always say names, I say situations. But then I have to be careful because when I talk about situations, people make assumptions I'm talking about them. And I'm like, I'm not even talking about you. But then when someone thinks I'm talking about them, it's an assumption. And then I have to deal with, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people in general. Like I'm not, it's like, but am I who I say I am? So the first thing I say is I'm on the struggle bus and I'm a train wreck. So to me, I set the platform of who I am and I'm being honest. But if I was sitting there thinking about if I sat, okay, let me back up a minute. Going back to addiction. Am I who I say I am when I talk about teaching people not to discriminate? Am I who I say I am? I ask myself that all the time. I feel like no one is perfect, right? No one is perfect. We are We are constantly learning. We are constantly putting tools in our pocket as we grow older and wiser. In the Bible, it talks about going to the elderly for guidance. I can't remember the exact wording. Why does God tell us to go to the elderly? The elderly in the church is usually what it says. And I believe it's because they're older and wiser. And so for you and I, as we go through this life, as we grow older, we grow wiser, meaning we have been there, done that, and got the award for it, right? I mean, we've chances are if someone comes to us for advice, we've gone through it because I'm 54. I've already gone through having kids. I've already gone through raising kids. I've already gone through putting them in college. I've already gone through going through a divorce. I have got the ribbon for all those things that I have been through because I'm 54 years old, where a 20-year-old that's just starting out with a family doesn't really understand what's fixing to happen to them. So I think that's why God tells us to go to the elderly for guidance because they have all the ribbons. Like if I sat here and I said, Alyssa, come on here and I want you to tell your testimony. Your testimony would probably blow people away because they're like, oh, I've been through that too, or oh, or whatever, because chances are we all have this story, that we've been writing since the day we were born. So saying, am I who I say I am? In my head, it's like I wake up a train wreck and I might say, well, that meth head. And then I have to stop myself and go, wait a minute. Do you honestly think that he chooses this lifestyle? Like this person inside. I mean, I was raised with them, okay? I know this person very, very well. I've been with them my whole entire life. Do I think, and people get in a fight. People get in the biggest fight when it comes to addiction. It's a choice. No, it's not a choice. It's a choice. It's not a choice. Or being gay. It's a choice. It's not a choice. People get into knockdown, drag out fights over their opinion. And that drives me insane. And I feel like when it comes to people's opinion, instead of, and I'm guilty of this, but instead of saying a broad statement, if you change the wording and say, for my family, it's not a choice. In my opinion, for me seeing my family, it's not a choice because of what I've seen in my own family. I do not think anyone chooses addiction when it comes to drugs. Do I think that's what I've seen in my own family? In other words, kids are going to be kids. If you think your kid is not going to get influenced by other kids, you know how God, in God's word, it talks about teach a kid and they'll always come back to their ways, the way they've been taught. So we as parents, let's just say you raise your kids in church and you raise your kids. I have to watch what I say or I'll get a violation. I've been queen of violations lately on YouTube and Facebook. So let me think of the word I want to say. Let's say drinking. Let's just, because I think I can say that without getting a spanking from social media. Okay, so let's say that you raise your kids that drinking underage is wrong. Okay? And you don't drink in your household, and you're like, this family, I'm a long, I was raised, let's just say, I was raised by an alcoholic, and I will raise my kids that we will not do that. By God, by golly, the generation curse is stopping in this generation. I will teach my kids that in this household, we do not drink. And you stick to your guns your whole life, okay? Then all of a sudden, your kid that hits high school, okay? Your kid hits high school and they get their driver's license. And it seems like, I don't know about y'all mamas or daddies, but it seems like when your kids hit high school, they get a mind of their own. It's like as soon as they get behind the wheel, they get this, I don't know, rebellious stage or something. And you're like, what the were you thinking when you made that decision? Because your mama did not teach you that. It's kind of like that. And so, like, when your kids in your head, you don't think your kids are going to do or act like that because you taught them better. And a lot of people begin to cast judgment upon parents. It's the parents' fault. It's the parents' fault. No, you know, and that is another judgment. So your kids turn 16 and you're like, oh, my kids ain't drinking. I didn't teach them that. I had them in church and I taught them better, and they're not doing that. And then they turn 16 and they go to high school and they get all this influence behind them. And the next thing you know, you're like, what the what? Are you kidding me right now? I get in this house because I'm about to blister your tail because you know better than that. And you start like, they made the choice to go out and make a bad decision. And you think, oh, I'm going to put the fear of God in them and they won't do that again. I will take their cell phone away and I'll take their car keys away and they're grounded until they turn 21. You know, like you think that. But addiction doesn't work that way. And no parent thinks that they're going to raise a kid in addiction. I know my mom didn't. I don't think she did. Like, you don't have kids and think, oh, they're going to be in addiction. But one choice, and no single person thinks that they're going to choose that lifestyle. And so then what ends up happening is your kid made a bad choice. And they like the feeling of being drunk. It's fun. You do stupid stuff. You have fun with you around the bonfire with your redneck truck and you roasting weenies and drinking a beer. That's like cool. And you're like, oh, that ain't cool. You know, the kid's not going to tell you that. But in the kid's mind, they don't really understand addiction. And you can't really teach addiction to a child because they have to write their own story. You can teach them to say no to drinking, but when they become 16 and get in high school and get influenced by other people, it's a whole different ballgame. And we as parents, my kid ain't doing that. Oh, my kid ain't doing that. Okay. Okay. I mean, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. But I'll tell you for the kids that I've seen and friends that I've had, because we all that are our age, we all have the ribbon for it. And if you've not been there and your kid didn't do that, you better consider yourself blessed because all kids go through that. They do. I did. All kids go through peer pressure and making bad choices. But I don't feel like anyone says, when I grow up, I want to be an addict. I want to be laid out on the streets, homeless with no teeth and that big around and lose everything that I have. No one chooses to live that life. But choices are made in the beginning when they make the choice to disobey their parents and go down this road. So am I who I say I am when I am like looking at other kids, let's just say that have been through that? Am I who I say I am if I'm confusing myself? Am I who I say I am as a parent? My kids will never do that. You know how you've learned in life, never say never? Never say never. Because you have no idea what you're going through. But as I've gotten older and wiser, sometimes I sit back and go, am I say who I am? Sometimes as a people pleaser, when I was thinking about this topic, I was like, if I sat 10 of my friends down and I said, will you tell me, am I who I say I am? Like when you watch me on social media, am I who I say I am? And I think a lot of people would say, no, you're nothing like you say you are. Because I've made a lot of people mad in my life, especially in the past 6 years. Oh, she's nothing like she says she is. And I think, why would they say that about me? Why would someone say I'm not who I say I am? I'm thinking, as I've gotten older, and if you are my age or older, you might understand. Do you know how, like, when you start getting older, you seek peace? Like when you're young and things are chaotic, like you can live like that. But when you get older and wiser, you kind of like, I can't handle the chaos. Like, I got to jet. I think if I set 10 people down and they said, oh, she is not who she says she is. And I'm thinking of one person in particular that would definitely say this. I would think the reason she's saying that is because I had to walk away. I'm going to use that word. I had to walk away from the friendship. Why did I walk away? I walked away because as I've gotten older and wiser, I've realized that I can't fix other people's problems. I wished I could. And when I was younger, I used to always think that I could. I would come up with the solution to fix their problem. I think that's part of being a people pleaser is we provide solutions. And as I've gotten older and wiser, I've realized that the only person that I can fix is me. So therefore, I walked away from this particular person because it was chaotic. It was causing me to try to be I was becoming a mother. I was becoming, you got to get it together. Like me having hard conversations. You got to get your crap straight. You got to get a car. You've got to get a job. You've got to get it together. And in the beginning, I had that hard conversation with someone that is an adult. Why am I telling an adult she needs to get a job and get a car? And so I began to realize that I was becoming controlling. I was telling her how to fix her life. And she wasn't listening to a word I said. So I realized at that point, was an enabler. I thought I was helping, but I wasn't. My intention was good, but I got the big old fat neon light over my head that says enabler instead of best friend or I don't know, let's just say best friend. I was becoming a mother figure and I was becoming an enabler. And at that point, I was like, how do I get out of this? I can't fix it. Like I am now an enabler. I am a mother to somebody that I did not birth. And this is not good. And I thought in my head, what am I going to do? Am I going to continue to be an enabler or am I going to have to make a hard decision? Am I who I say I am? If I'm an enabler, what kind of example am I being to other people? I know what enabler is. I have been an enabler, not on purpose. A lot of times we don't realize we're an enabler. But then when I went to Al-Anon, I was the queen of enabler. But I didn't think I was. So I really wasn't who I said I was because I was one of those people that said, I will not ever be an enabler. That my friend, like how sometimes you see other people go through things and you're like, oh, I will not do that. And you're like the queen of doing that. But you think you don't do that because you really aren't who you say you are. Because if you were, you would be able to be going, you would have compassion. I feel like when it comes to my friends saying, am I who I say I am? I feel like a lot of my friends would say, no, you're not. You're so not. And when I say friends, I mean friends in my past would say that. And the reason is because as I got older and wiser, my friend list became lower and lower, lower and lower. I was the person who had tons of friends. And as I've grown up, my circle of friends got really small. Why? Because as I run after being the best version of Judy, I had to learn it's not that they were not good friends, it's that I wasn't strong enough to not be an enabler, or I wasn't strong enough to set boundaries, or I wasn't strong enough to um I'm going to leave it at, really it was about boundaries. Uh I wasn't strong enough, or I was trying to control them by fixing them. And it's not something that they were doing wrong, it was me. I couldn't handle trying to find solutions for them. Like I talked about, that I had this friend that uh I told you that um didn't work, and she had, if her husband died, she was going to be homeless. For me, this is my problem. It's not her problem. It was my problem. It drove me crazy. Like I wrote out a whole financial plan for her. Like I was up at night worrying about her. I'm like, girl, if you don't get it together now, you're going to be homeless. If your husband dies and you have no insurance and you are got a second mortgage on your house and all you bring home is $600 a month, you're screwed. You better get it together. It was like I became the Edward Jones person, and I wrote her down a whole financial plan. I'm crazy. And I was like, why am I trying to fix her? But I wasn't strong enough to be her friend, because I couldn't separate that from friendship. I couldn't do it. I literally was the type of friend that was worried sick over her. I could not lay my head down at night worrying about her, because I love her with all my heart, and I'm afraid if she don't get it together, it's going to be too late. I began to try to fix her. That's not good. So I walked away from the friendship because I wasn't strong enough. It's not that she did something wrong. It's just that I wasn't strong enough to handle the friendship because I became consumed in her. That's why my circle of friends started becoming really small, because I'm a fixer. Lisa, I will write you out a financial plan because I'm like, you can't do that. Why am I like that? I was like, why am I ain't no financial planner. I've never been to financial school. Why do I think that I have her solutions? So I had to walk away because it was consuming me, because I'm a fixer. Am I who I say I am? Well, is that considered I'm not a good friend because I walked away because I'm not strong enough to stop my brain from trying to fix her problems? So, am I not who I say I am because I walked away from the friendship? Um, and this girl I talked to every single day for years. There was a lot more to the story than just that. But I'm thinking about the 10 people I would set in front of me and say, "Is she who she says she is?" And the 10 people I have in front of me would all go, "No, she's not. She's not who she says she is." The first thing I say in the mornings when I go live is, "I'm on the struggle bus and I'm a train wreck." Meaning I'm not perfect. Do I say sometimes, "Oh, they're a meth head"? Yes, I have. I'm not perfect. And I claim in the beginning of my lives is I'm a train wreck and I'm on the struggle bus. Because every single situation that I am in, I have to check myself. What does check yourself mean? Now this is just me personally. This is how I do myself. You can take what you like and leave what you don't like. But when I say I check myself, this is what I mean. In situations, I have to say, "Judy, with what you said or what you did, is it pleasing to God?" That's how I check myself. And majority of the time, the answer is no. No. But that's how I got to where I am today because I constantly have to check myself. And majority of the time, there's several things that happen in my head. The first word that comes to mind this morning is assumption. A lot of times we make assumptions based off what we think. And when you check yourself and say, "But what are the facts?" Facts meaning you know for sure. You don't know for sure because you think you know for sure. You know for sure because this is what they said or this is what happened. And oftentimes we replace the facts with, "I, I know what you meant. I know exactly what you meant." That is an assumption. That is not a fact. When you stop yourself and check the facts, a fact is different from an opinion or an assumption. And majority of the times we make an assumption because we're assuming that's what they meant or that's what they did or whatever. And sometimes we make an assumption when we've not been in someone else's shoes. In other words, meth head, freaking making bad choices in your life. You did it to yourself. You did it to yourself. I tried to tell you, and you didn't listen to me. To me, that is a judgment, which came from an assumption because you assume you know how they feel. You cast a judgment because you think you've never been, let's just say the addiction. If you stop yourself in the middle of meth head, ooh, that was not nice. So you stop yourself and say, was that you calling that person a meth head? Was that pleasing to God? Mm-mm. I don't think God would like me saying that. That's not nice. Okay, once you stop yourself and say, is that pleasing to God? And your answer is no. That's not something that I think the Lord would come down here and say, hey, you meth head, get it together. To me, that's not pleasing to God. So the second thing is you've made an assumption. So at that point is when you stop yourself, you ask yourself if it's pleasing to God. The second thing you say is, I want you to take off your shoes and get in their shoes. So when it comes to my friend and me worrying about her future, so if I take my shoes off and get in her shoes, why doesn't she worry about her future? And the first thing that comes to my head, because I know her very, very well, the first thing that comes to my head is I think she feels stuck. Because she's made a lot of bad choices in her life that leads her to feeling like she can't work. And I haven't said this person's name, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit more. But she made really bad choices in life that led her to having a felony and living with a dark secret for a bad choice that she made. And she is not the felony type person. She's precious. She allowed someone to talk her into something which led her to a bad place. And she's had to live with this secret, and she's had to live with the pain of hiding behind this dark secret. And the last thing someone with a felony wants to do, and I have more than one friend that I've walked away from that has a felony. But if I stopped myself and got in those people's shoes, can you imagine for just a minute making a bad choice when you were young? Let's say you're in your 20s and you make a bad choice in life. and you get the big F on your name, a felony. She's a felon. He's a felon. And then you go try to go to every and get a job. Felony follows you for the rest of your life. For one bad choice that you made in your life, having the word felony follows you in every job that you do. Every time someone Googles your name, it's out there. So, can you imagine for just a minute how someone that doesn't work, and for me, it seems so, go get a job. How about going to get you just run and live off everybody? How about you going to get a job? That's easy for me to say because I'm not the person going out there filling out an application and then they run a background check. Oh, you're a felon. And they have to face it every time they go into a job. Can you imagine for just a minute about making some stupid bad decision when you were a little bitty growing up, and then that follows you for the rest of your life and you have to explain it every time you apply for a job? Most people that I know, they just won't work. You know, when you go into, like when I go into a school to do a field trip, every school, they take your driver's license. So when they have your driver's license, what happens? They won't let you in the school until it's cleared. If you have a felony, every single time you go to the school, let's just say if I was a felon, I wouldn't be able to go into schools. For something I did in my 20s and I'm now 54. Yeah. So I think that my friend feels stuck. And that's why she doesn't work. So that's why she has no retirement, because she did something stupid in her 20s and she has to face it every time she goes to apply for a job. So she'd rather just sit at home and let her husband work and have nothing. That's sad. So when I get in their shoes, it's like all of a sudden in my head, I'm like, that's really sad. So am I who I say I am when I walk away? Am I like the terrible friend? The only person you can control is yourself. Because the first thing in my head, because I'm a solution person, okay? That's how I operate. And in my head, there's a solution for everything. Like, I'm not the type of person that's going to lay down and let anything defeat me. I'm a fighter. That's me. Not everyone's like me. I think in my life, all the bad decisions I've made, I mean, I have a name for myself, with people that I grew up with. Judy's crazy. And in my head, I'm like, watch this. Watch this. And I'll become president. Like I'm a solution person, which means that I don't let things define me. I'll get up and fight even harder. But not everyone's like me, which that means they'll let a felony consume them. Where I'm kind of like, let me go to counseling. Let me figure out how to accept the things that I did when I was young. And will you teach me how, when I go into an interview, will you teach me how to shine through the felony? Will you teach me how to get the job? That would be me. I don't care how much it costs. I don't care how many times I have to come to counseling. Teach me how to get over this and not let this felony consume me. I have kids to raise. I got to move forward. I don't want to be depending on other people. I want to figure out how to stand on my own 2 feet. Help me. Hold my hand and teach me how to do this because I cannot let this consume me. That is me. But when I'm a friends with someone, let's just say that's like that, that's what I say to them. Are you going to let this define you the rest of your life? I mean, get with it. That was when you were 20. You're not like that anymore. Let's move forward. Let's move forward. But not everyone has the same personality as me. I'm a fixer. I'm not strong enough to be with people that are not fixers. I'm a terrible friend. I am. I'm here to tell you. I will be the first to tell you that I do have compassion. I can get in someone's shoes. I'm strong enough to go, is that pleasing to God? So I sit here and say to myself right now, when you walk away from someone, is that pleasing to God? Is that, if God came down here, would it be pleasing to God if I walked away from a friendship because I was an enabler? Personally, in my brain, if I know that I can't fix someone and I'm an enabler, I feel like God would say, Judy, you either quit being an enabler, get your crap straight, or you need to walk away because you're letting this consume you. So am I who I say I am? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, because I'm not perfect. And I feel like being the best version of yourself is taking it day by day, fixing what you've messed up in life, realizing you're not perfect, and continuing to go to counseling, talk to God, fix yourself, and don't concentrate and try to obsess about the things that you've done in your past that you can't fix. But I feel like a lot of times where I'm weak is I don't pause. I'm getting better at it though as I get older. A lot of times I have to go, what's going on in your head, Judy? Are you who you say you are? I'm a work in progress, just like you. Just because I am I guess, the leader of the backup dancers doesn't mean I have it all together. I tell you in the beginning of my lives, I wake up on the struggle bus. I'm a train wreck. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I don't make the best decisions every time. I don't. But to me, you have choices in life, right? You have a choice in life. Sitting it out is not working at yourself. Sitting it out, there's a lot we regret in life. Are you a good friend? Do I consider myself a good friend? Oh my gosh, where's the hole? I guess it depends on who you ask. Honestly, there's some friends of mine that would go, she's the best friend I've ever had in my life. And then some people go, she ain't who she says she is. I think it depends on who you ask. Sitting it out is not working on yourself. Sometimes you have to push people out of the way to be the best version of yourself. And the reason is because you may be like me and a fixer. You can't fix other people. You can't have solutions for other people. Sitting it out is doing what I did because I let those things consume me. And I was up at night making financial plans for her. That's not good. That's not good. Dancing is stopping yourself. And the second you make a judgment call, is that pleasing to God? Pause. Is that pleasing to God? And then get in their shoes, check the facts, make sure they're not assumptions with the what's in your head. Because we will go to assumptions. We will. Dancing is being the best version of yourself and breaking it down to figure out what's pleasing to God or what's pleasing to whoever you serve. If you don't serve God, whoever you serve. I don't want you to all believe like me. I don't. I'm not going to push that on you. Dancing is doing those things. Pause. Is it pleasing to who you serve? Check the facts. Are these assumptions? Is this something that you can handle? Because the only person that you can control is you. He's in the kitchen. I love you guys. I will. Oh, today is Wednesday. I won't see you Wednesday because today is Wednesday. I will see you Monday. I'll try to go live sometime this weekend. My grandson has a birthday party this weekend, so I will be traveling to go to his birthday party. So at some point, I will try to go live. I hope this live helps someone, and I will see you next time. See you later. Love you. Bye.